Hello everyone, it's Marcus from PageProof here to go through the Academy today for Asana. So we are going to take a look at how PageProof and Asana are integrated and look at some of the features of the integration that we have with Asana, and we'll go through and actually do a proof from Asana and see how that information updates. So as a lot of you know, we are here to go through and help you set these integrations up. If you are somebody who's working and looking at Asana and thinking, you know, I'd love to integrate PageProof into that, part of the PageProof offer is that we can actually help you set this up. But let's dive straight in and take a look at the integration. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is take a look at Asana. So here we are inside of Asana. You can see that I have got a number of different columns inside of here, and of course we do know that you can list it as a list if you prefer it that way. So all of the features of Asana, all as normal. The one difference here is that what we've done here is we've gone into Customize, gone into Apps, and we've added in PageProof. So we've done a search and added PageProof as an app to Asana, and that adds the PageProof features to Asana. You'll then go through a setup where it'll ask you a couple of questions, connect you to your PageProof account. So you do need to be an admin in Asana to do that initial connection, so the account holder. And you also need to be a team admin over in PageProof to do that as well. Once that's set up, then you will get the PageProof features inside of your tasks and subtasks. So let's take a look at what you get. So if I go inside of this Facebook ad task, you'll see as I go down that in the middle here, there is a PageProof. There's a new section here called PageProof. And you've got a little menu here where you can click, you can create a new proof, or you can attach an existing proof that you might have already started in PageProof. You can paste the URL into here and connect that up. So that's a little section that you get inside of here, which is great. You also get inside Customize. So if you go into Rules, you'll see if you go into Asana that you can add your own rules here. If I say add a rule, then you can do a search for PageProof and you can create your own rules. And you'll also see as I go through these that I do have a number of different options inside of here. So this one here, when the due date is approaching, that's going to skip the current step inside of PageProof. So these rules, you can trigger something inside of PageProof. So when the due date approaches, you can skip the current step in the proof that's attached. So those are inside of the rules inside of Asana. Okay, we jump over to PageProof. I'll just show you some of the options there. So as the team, and we go into integrations, you'll see that Asana is connected to PageProof. And inside of here, you can go into the configuration by clicking on the little cog icon here. And this now shows you all the different options that you've got inside of PageProof for your connection over to Asana. So for example, of course, the enabled to make sure it's all connected up, who the default Asana user is that we're connected to. So you can do that, and the workspace that you're connected. So you can connect that up inside of here as well. Now, you'll see you want the proof status to be synchronized over as a tag inside of Asana. Then you can do that. You can switch that on. The approval status, so we can send those across. The archive proofs count and archive proofs. So if you do archive proofs and you don't want those inside your proof count, you can switch those off and turn those on. And then you've got other options down here for task comments, and also upload the approved file back into the task. So when the proof is approved in PageProof, we can copy the approved file back over into Asana. So Asana remains as your single source of the truth. So there we have it for the settings on the PageProof side. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of the other options that are inside of here as well. So when I go into a task, if you do have Asana, I don't know the exact level of Asana, but you can have these approval statuses on top of your tasks. This is optional, by the way. PageProof works with every Asana license level, but if you do happen to have the level that has the approvals on it, then we can actually automatically press these buttons for you as part of the integration in PageProof. And we'll see this in action as well. Okay, well, let's get started by sending a proof out of this task. So you can see with this task, we have drag and dropped a number of different files inside of here. So I've come in and I've drag and dropped files from my computer into this, and you can see that there is a JPEG here and a PDF here. So these are being added in by my designer. That's great. The designer has said, okay, here are the two files that you can send out for proofing. Choose the PDF to actually send out. So the way that I do that is under PageProof here, I just click onto the Add PageProof, then go Create New Proof, and it pops up this box that allows us to choose how to set up the proof. So you'll notice straight away at the very, very top of the screen that it's showing us set up in PageProof or set up in Asana. So you can go through and you can choose which of the setup screens that you would like to use with this integration. So the default is PageProof, and what will happen here is I can set some settings from here, and if I click Submit, it's going to actually take us to PageProof where we can set up the proof inside of PageProof. And that is probably the most common way that you would do it. The alternative to that is, hey, I'd like to do the setup in Asana. So click on Asana, and this box will extend out and give you more options for setting up your proof inside of Asana. So you can choose a workflow. So you can just click on here. Now, these workflows that you see here, these are your team workflows. These are the ones that are shared to the team. So those will show up inside of here. And also you can choose a checklist from here if you want to as well. So we've got those options here. And then a couple of options for sharing and for downloading. So we give you a bit more of an expanded ability to actually send the proof directly out of Asana using the Asana setup. I'm going to switch back to the PageProof one, because this gives me all the power of the PageProof proof setup screen. Now, under File that you can see here, if I click this, I can choose from the files that are inside of my task. So I can grab hold of that PDF. You'll also notice that I've got the ability to start a website proof and do an email proof as well. So if you have used the PageProof email proofing, very, very cool, by the way. If you choose email here, it'll give you a unique email address. You can go over to your email templating tool and send a test email to that address so PageProof can make a proof out of it. But let's carry on. I'm going to use this PDF here, and we're going to send this out. So I click on Submit. That's going to upload the details into PageProof. And then what you'll notice is this card pops out inside of my task. So says here under PageProof, we've now got, boom, Facebook ad, and you can see it's showing awaiting setup. So if I click on awaiting setup, that then takes us to the PageProof proof setup screen where we can see all the information has been moved in from the Asana task directly into this. So I don't need to fill out too much information here, and you can see the reference back to the Asana task in here. The due dates come from the task, etc., etc. So I'm pretty happy with that. Then over on the right-hand side, we have got the reviewers that we'd like to use. Now, just some clarity on reviewers. Reviewers inside of here are independent of your Asana licensing. This is the massive advantage here. So you can add customers into here. You can have freelancers. You can have anyone on the planet as a reviewer for your proof, and they do not know anything about Asana or your Asana setup. So they're kept separate from your Asana environment, which is a real big bonus. So you can click on Add Reviewers, start typing in email addresses, or you can choose a pre-saved PageProof workflow. So I can just grab hold of the workflow that I'd like to use. Now, a lot of you already know how PageProof workflows work, where you have the different steps. Creative check will see it first. New feature that we added here, by the way, you can now change the threshold for the decisions. So you can say, oh, I want 2 people, or I want 6 people, or I want 3 people, or whatever you want for those that are mandatory and gatekeepers before it moves on to the next stage. But this is not the webinar for that. But again, you can see my workflow. It's flowing from step to step to step. And then, of course, you can add a checklist. And checklists one of our most favorite features. I can add the appropriate checklist for that. So if I was doing packaging, if I was doing social media, you can do this inside of here. But anyway, let's send this proof out. So click on send proof. That then sends the information into PageProof, notifies all the reviewers. But if we go back and actually take a look inside of Asana, we'll see that that has changed the information inside Asana for that task. So if we go down now, we can see down the bottom here under the PageProof panel, it's now showing us, hey, here's the proof. It's in proofing. 44% of the reviewers have been invited, and we're at step 1 of 4, the credit check. Brilliant. So this is telling us everything we need to know from a project management point of view. Project manager can pop into the task. Okay, we can see that's all underway. Everything's happy. We're not past step 1 yet. That's great. So this is the information that's been updated from PageProof back into Asana. Well, let's take a look at that proof, and we'll put some markup on it so you can see exactly how that works. So here is the proof inside of PageProof. And as we can see, there is our checklist, and it wants us to check all this information. Yes, that looks great. Yes, that looks great. Yes, that looks great. So you can do all of that. Of course, using the markup tools, I can put markup on this proof. I can change items inside of here. So I can go through and say, replace this, for example, add in our replacement. I'd like to have a red pen there, please. So add that in. We'll grab hold of the copy that we don't like here, and we can make changes on that. So you've seen all of this, but I'm just going to quickly make some quick suggestions for this proof. So I can go through and do that as well. Let's highlight this block of copy. I'd like to just maybe put that into here. We'll trim that out a bit so it's less copy inside of here. And then we'll use the freehand drawing pen just to suggest that maybe that goes over there. And this guy should be smiling a bit. So let's do that as well. Make changes. So I add those inside of here. Those can be all marked as actionable to-do items for my designer to go and do. If I then send that back with changes, please. So let's send those changes back. And then what we can do is take a look and see what happens over inside of Asana for this task now. So let's open up this task. And one thing that's really interesting here, you'll notice up the top, you know how I said to you, if you do have the approval feature turned on for those higher Asana plans, you can see that that's actually now highlighted that button for us, changes requested, which is kind of nice. As I said at the start, this is not compulsory for the use of PageProof. It's just a nice little add-on. You'll also notice that we've added a tag inside of here that says to-dos requested. So we change these tags automatically into tasks so you can have some actions or whatever based on those. And then down inside this card, we can see to-dos requested, showing us that there are 4 to-dos. So this is great for, again, project managers. They can pop into here, take a look, make an assessment on how much work is involved with this, just from an overview point of view, and they can assign a designer and say, hey, this can go over to Marcus, the graphic designer. Now, I don't have a different hat sitting on my desk, but I can take off my demo hat, put on my designer hat, and pretend to be a designer. So let's do that. Let's have a look and see how that works. Okay, so Marcus, the designer, is now opening up Adobe InDesign because I'd like to make the changes that we were just looking at. So I'm going to do a search up here for that proof, and we can see there is our Facebook ad that we were just looking at today. And there are all the changes inside the PageProof panel that is inside of Adobe InDesign. Now, for those of you who have not seen the integration with the Adobe tools, this is InDesign with the PageProof panel. This panel, by the way, is freely available from the Adobe Marketplace, and it works inside of InDesign. Also, Photoshop, if you're loving Photoshop, then we have a panel there as well. Illustrator, and if you're into video, Premiere Pro and After Effects. So we take care of all of those tools with this panel. Let's do a little bit of change here. So if I click on this comment, you'll see it brings the markup into your tool. So this panel is a native InDesign or a native Adobe CC panel. It's not a panel with a web browser running inside of it. We don't believe in that's the right way to do it. This is the right way to do it. Make it a native integration that directly integrates with your Adobe tools. Why? Productivity. So I'll show you. Mark that if it's done. Move to the next one. Whole lot of spelling that needs to be changed. There's a button down here that says changed my InDesign document. One click, boom, I've made the copy change, mark that off as done. Another block of copy here that needs changing, no problem. Click on the button at the bottom here, change the text, mark it off as done. So you can see I'm making these changes inside my document super quickly. Oh, there's an attachment you'd like me to place. That's inside the comment, no problem. Click on place, says save it into which folder. There's my links folder, I'll just save it into there. And then my cursor is now loaded with the attachment. Just click, boom, change is made. So I've now gone through, made all those changes super quickly. And what I'm going to do is upload a new version of this from directly inside of my Adobe tools. So I'm going to say, hey, upload new version. Those settings all look okay. Click upload. That's going to pop us back into the proof setup screen, and you'll see it's automatically connected back to my, my task inside of Asana. That's really cool. Don't have to worry about any of that. But one thing I want to show you here was if you have run a proof through its first version, and there's a whole bunch of people that had gone through and marked it as approved, you don't really want them to see the second version because they're like, I'm done with it. I'm already approved it. You can just click on these three dots and you can say skip reviewers who previously approved, and we will just park them to the side so they don't get a proof invitation. That feature is just absolutely brilliant. So do use that if you haven't used it already. Okay, so upload a new version. That's going to pop a new version up into PageProof, and it's going to update the information across inside of Asana. So we go in and take a look at that task again inside of Asana. So we'll click on our Facebook ad. You'll see that we are now back in proofing, and we're going to go through and take a look at the second version of the proof. Now, to hurry this along a little bit, what I'm going to do is jump in. We'll do a quick comparison. Then we'll approve the proof, and you can see the file being copied back into Asana. So if I say, hey, let's view that in PageProof, and you'll see this is the InDesign document that we were just looking at in InDesign. There it is as a proof. Simple as that. So let's have a look at the comparison. I can click on here and go to version 1 of the proof, and that will show me all the things that I need to change. And you'll notice all these are in green. Why is that markup in green? It's because inside of InDesign, I checked it off as done. So it updates the status as live inside of PageProof. If I click on the compare icon, it puts the two side by side. Okay, I can check the changes this way. I can use the Smart Compare feature to overlay the two versions and show me where the differences are. Or I can use the comparison slider, and I can slide between the two versions just to check that everything that I asked for was actually carried out, and it looks like it was. So we'll just go back. We'll check off the checklist. Yes, I've checked the imagery. Yes, I've checked the copy. And yes, the hashtags are all okay too. So now I will just approve the proof, and we'll pop back into Asana and see that that will be copying back into here. So all the updates will come through, and you'll also notice that now, because we approved it, it's put the task over into the approved column. Why is that? Well, the reason that that happened is because you can see it's marked it as approved. You can see there's an approved tag here, and it's also approved down inside the status as well. So all this information got updated as approved. I have a rule inside of my Asana that says, hey, if this gets approved, then move it over into the approved column. So it's come out of my work in progress, now over to approved. Now, if I scroll down a little bit, it's going to tell me, hey, you've actually got a new file. So you can see that PageProof, if I go to the very bottom here, it has copied over that new proof. So Preset Visuals B, this is the final approved file, has been copied back into the task. So just showing you, there you go. That is a full run through of the integration, beautifully integrated into the product. What I wanted to quickly show you for the last couple of minutes is what some of the different media types you can do here. I think it's pretty important to take a look at those. So let's have a quick look at those. So for those of you who do a lot of video, you can send over video directly from inside of Asana, and PageProof will facilitate all the video proofing. So we have the video proofing. I can just grab hold of the pen tool and draw directly on the video, add my comment in here. The time codes are automatically put onto the comment, which is great. You'll see I've got these panhandles here where I can span the comment over time if I want to. So I've got options for those sorts of things. I can look at this in empty time code or basic minutes and seconds. You can do that. Full screen mode if you want to do that. You can speed up the playback and slow it down if you want to get into the details, all of those options. And of course, frame by frame advance if you need it. And the compare tool is down here. Now you'll notice that I am in dark mode. Sometimes if you want to look at video, people prefer dark mode. Just hit the D twice on your keyboard and that switches from dark mode to light mode. So that's a kind of a little tip there. HTML proofing. So if you are working with any HTML content, you can put staging servers, you can put websites, you can put whatever you like inside a PageProof. This is the Mercedes-Benz website. Again, it's a fully functioning website. And again, connected back to your Asana task. So you can actually go through and browse the site. Your reviewers can check all the HTML content. They can even check it on different screen sizes. So what does this look like on an iPad, for example? And hey, what does this look like on an iPhone? And we will show that different, the website in different ways now. And you'll notice the menus coming from the top and those sorts of things as well. So some good examples of that. And then finally, a couple of good other ones here. We've got banner ads. So if you're working with banner ad campaigns, those can be put through the platform. Animated banner ads will galley onto a single canvas so you can see what those look like and your reviewers can comment on those. That's pretty handy there. And then lastly, if you are working with things like Figma or you're working with Google Docs or any of those other types of tools, in fact, any kind of media that you're working with, PageProof supports it all. So that is the demonstration and the webinar to do with PageProof and Masterclass on the Asana integration. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A and I can answer those questions for you. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time today. And I hope that this gave you some insights into what you can do when you connect PageProof, Asana, and I haven't got another hand, but also we would like to have Adobe CC in there as well. So PageProof, Asana, and also Adobe Creative Cloud, and we get a full workflow showing up inside of your platform. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.